I know it's not even Halloween quite yet, but today I'm sharing my 2022 wish list of 10 new products I've fallen in love with this year that you may want to check out. Most of them are quite inexpensive, so they could be perfect little gifts for your crafty friends. There's a bit of overlap with last week's video about card making trends, but I made 4 brand new cards, so stick around to see those. The Stencils 360 tool was released in September 2020, and I fell in love with the geometric possibilities of spinning a stencil to create circular designs. This year, the Mandala set in the new release really caught my eye and opened the possibilities of this tool up even further. To use the tool, you basically just use the markings on the base of the tool and the guide ring to turn the stencil to the correct angle. I showed a very simple way to use this tool last week, and I have a full playlist with lots of videos that go more in depth about this tool. Today, I'm stepping it up by showing how to make a larger mandala. All you need to do is place the stencil onto the guide ring rather than inside it. I'm going to do 12 turns this week, but I want to change the order of the colors for every other design, so I'm using the solid circle markings for the first 6. Then I clean the stencil and I use the open circle markings on the base for the other 6. Then I do the same thing with another design to fill in the middle of mandala, which I'm making in blues and greens to become a wreath. This time the stencil is extremely off to the side, and I place the design hole exactly where I want it before taping the stencil to the guide again and turning it. You just want to be sure that you don't tape the stencil to the base. The inks I'm using are number 2 on my list. These are the Luxe inks from Catherine Pooler, a new family of rich, deep colors in the party line. Catherine Pooler inks are my favorites. They stamp crisply, blend beautifully, you can watercolor with them, and you can use them direct to paper to create colored cardstock that matches your project perfectly. I'm using Uptown and Martini here for the leaves, and I'll be moving into Cranberry Fizz and Glam in a minute. But this whole family is perfect for adding depth to the colors you already have, and as I showed in a previous video, they mix together to make wonderful fall colors too. Number 3 is still in the stencil area, and it's pretty much any stencil from a Colorful Life Designs. Here I'm using the berry layer from the Layered Holly set to add some pops of purpley red to my wreath by masking off one of the little sets of berries and then taping this square stencil to the stencil guide. It will turn exactly the same way as a round stencil would. A Colorful Life Designs is a US-based, woman-owned small business with loads and loads of fun designs. And if you look back at my work this year, you'll see quite a few of them. I've really fallen in love with stencils this year more than ever before, and I think they're such a great value. They're generally inexpensive, but they have so much versatility. Now you can see that I should have masked off my berries a bit more, and I did get a smudge of red on the panel, but I'll show you how I fix that a bit later. Now this mandala is probably too big for one card, so I trimmed my 8.5 by 5.5 inch panel in half to get 2 card bases. Moving on, number 4 is Dylusions Shimmer Paints. While I'm still working on building up my gel printing skills, these paints are giving me gorgeous results that I'm happy to use on my cards. One of my favorite methods right now is to get a solid pull just to get a layer of color down, and then put more paint down on the plate, put a stencil down, and this is another one from a Colorful Life Designs. It's called Christmas Flower. And then I pull a print with a white sheet of paper. Then I use the solid piece to pull up what's left, and this gives me a subtle tone-on-tone pattern. The other thing I like to do is use 3 or 4 colors across the gel plate, brayered out so they're nice and thin to get my first solid pull. Then I put the same colors going across the gel plate in the other direction. I put the stencil down, and then I use that first page with the stripes to pull up the pattern before I take the stencil away. I love this look. The opacity of the paints gives me layers of colors rather than blending, and it gives me a beautiful panel of pattern paper. I don't keep a lot of colored cardstock on hand since I can just make my own with my ink pads, but I do have a number of specialty cardstocks in my craft room. This year, I really fell in love with the satiny cardstocks in silver and gold, but my true favorite is this INCA gold from Tonic. It's iridescent with all the pretty colors in it, but it's also gold. And I love to use it with number 6, which is my word dies, to make sentiments for my cards. I find myself really drawn to this series of oversized print words from Waffle Flower. The font is clean and classic, and they're big enough to act as a focal point on a card, and they come with a shadow. I've always loved using word dies for my sentiments, but a few simple changes in my craft room has made it so much easier. First, I created a couple of magnetic boards with magnet sheets and frames I got on Amazon, and now I keep my favorite word dies and my most used shape dies right above my die cutting machine. It means I'm not having to search through pockets every time I want to cut a sentiment or a rectangular panel. And to make it even easier, I have now made it a habit to cut extra words if I can, whenever I'm die cutting, and I store them in plastic pockets just above my desk, so that more and more I don't have to do any die cutting to finish my cards. I just reach up and pull down the extras. Generally, I cut the extras from white cardstock. That means I can use them as is, or color them with ink, or use them to stack up behind one that is cut from specialty cardstock. And here's a trick. If you love specialty cardstock like INCA Gold, you don't want to waste any of it. So if you want a gold shadow with white words, you can cut the word from the shadow, save the gold word for a future card, and inlay the white word into the hole in the gold shadow. And if you don't want white letters, add some ink. I'm using Cranberry and Glam here, and I'm loving the purpley red they create when they're mixed together. I'm not even making sure it's even. If there's parts that are more red or more purple, I think that just adds interest. Oh no! I'm not going to explain how this happened while I was trimming down the green gel print, because it's a little complicated and also because it makes me look really bad. But I am hoping it can be fixed with number 7, this 3D embossing folder from Altenew, Angled Mosaics. I started by taping the panel together from the back with mint tape, and then I ran it through my die cutting machine. I love the geometric pattern of this folder. It adds interest to even a flat white background, and when you press it into shimmery cardstock like this, you get even more reflection and shimmer. I can still see the cut if I look closely, but there's lots of ways I can distract from that when I finish the card. Right now, I'm loving this black ink from Maker Forte. It works with Copics, and I also love that I can blend with it. Most importantly, it stamps deep, crisp black without staining my stamps, and here's a great sentiment set from scrapbook.com called Celebrate Occasions to demonstrate. It has a number of large, hand-scripted words that can be mixed and matched with a ton of smaller text words to make a huge variety of sentiments for your cards. Number 10 is Crafty Meraki Gems. Crafty Meraki has the best gems in my opinion. Many of them are illusion gems, which means that they flash different colors depending on the angle you're looking at them. Enchanted Gold is the perfect match for the INCA Gold cardstock. They have a gold base with an iridescent shine, and I've used them on all my cards today. And as we all know, one of their secondary functions is to cover any smudges, so that's exactly what I did here. This card is horizontal to accommodate the long Christmas die cut, and that meant that the smudge was in a great place for a gem. The wreath, the deep colors, and the gold touches make this a very elegant but still clean design. The next card uses the other half of the mandala wreath, along with the Mary die cut that was filled with a scrap of the green tone-on-tone gel print. And here's that other rescue. Because of the texture in the background and the die-cut snowflake over top, you can't even tell that there's a problem on that panel. I added a little joy die cut from Avery, Elle, and I used a single gem on the dot of the J. And here's the multicolored gel print. I created a white frame around the word with an essential circle die, and I filled this joy die cut with a piece of the paper I was rolling the paint off onto. That mix of paint colors gave it an almost oily sheen, and it's super pretty in real life. So what's on your crafty wish list? Let me know in the comments below. November will be Christmas card month here on the channel, so starting next week, I'll have 4 full-length videos, plus quite a few shorts to get you inspired for your holiday crafting projects. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time!